Well, it's certainly the calm after the storm here at the Etihad Stadium. Brian Kerr, we witnessed what I would say maybe is the performance of champions. Liverpool have beaten Manchester City by 2-0, the reigning champions, who looked like they were out tactic, is the old phrase you might hear.
I think that's a make you up word on your behalf, but I know what you mean.
But Slot certainly did pull a number there in Guardiola this afternoon.
Yeah, it was interesting. The choice of team and tactics not to play a centre forward at all, and just use the width of Diaz and Salah, using Jones and Szoboszlai kind of as advanced midfield players who didn't really advance that very much, that joined in the defending unit and blocked up the middle for City, made it very difficult for them to break through, to get through. They had loads of possession. I didn't know what the final stats were. You told me at half time, I think it was 68 in the first half, and it wasn't like possession at the back where your centre backs are passing between each other. It was possession in Liverpool's half up the pitch in the final third, but Liverpool time and time again just kept them out, and it was an interesting setup. Became 4-6 for back four in place and 6 midfielders in place for the majority of the second half, and certainly once Liverpool got the second goal.
And they were defending that area in the second half, that kind of 10-15 yards right in front of the edge of their own box. Like, I suppose, was it just a case of Guardiola just didn't have options on his bench to try and figure something out to try and break it down? Or is it a case where you come up against a formation that you weren't expecting in the game and there's just no way of fighting against or playing against it?
Well, I think Liverpool are so strong physically through that central unit. I mean, the full-backs had a tough enough time. Doku played well, I felt, in the left and got the better of Trent Alexander-Arnold several occasions, but when you put the cross in the box, it always seemed to be either Ibrahim Konate or Virgil van Dijk that got the header or got the clearance, whatever it took. But there was times where Szoboszlai made vital blocks in the edge of the box, and even Endo, when he came on, did the same too between the 6-yard box and the edge of the penalty area. They always just managed to block them out, and there was a lack of variety probably in Manchester City's play because they hadn't got the option of playing one in for the centre forward to attack the ball, to put a bit of pressure on the two centre backs. But physically they were always on top of Phil Foden, who was the main central attacker. Mamouche spent some time up there as well for a lot of the match. I mean, he was promising looking in the first half, but eventually kind of fizzled out a bit like the Manchester City team. But a great defensive performance by Liverpool. But they also got the 2 goals in the match, which was what the game is about. Found a way to get a corner, and then after the first corner, Rehear's move worked very well for them. And Rico Lewis just couldn't get out quick enough to stop Salah's shot, which deflected into the net. And then they found a way to get the second goal as well, with Salah's pace over the top, cut back for Szoboszlai. City caught short in midfield. So I would think a champion type performance today, not having an awful lot of ball but winning the match 2-0 as comfortably as you can be when you spent most of the match in your own half.
Come back to Liverpool, just on City, because you noticed a couple of things out there today. One of them being Nico Gonzalez and maybe his poor positional sense, and also the fact that his tracking back as well wasn't great, and he was very casual looking. Now, I make the point that Pep Guardiola ran this very tough regime for the first number of years at Manchester City. It served him well. If he ever signed a player, they'd have to work their way into his good books. It would take maybe a season and a half before they become a regular player. When I was preparing for this game, I was looking at Nathan Ake, 29 appearances last season, but the first couple of seasons he was there, he was playing maybe 10 and 15 appearances in the previous 2. We know Jack Grealish found it hard to get into the team. Phil Foden found it hard to become a regular starter, but he signed these new players, Nico, Kusanov and Marmouche, and they're just thrown into the starting lineup, and it's so un-Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, but that was because the team they realised that the team was failing and was past its sell-by date in many ways, that the likes of Gundogan, brought back from Barcelona after a season in Barcelona, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, constant injury problems, Kyle Walker, who was left to go to Milan now, that these players just hadn't got the energy and the vibrancy that's required to play with the intensity that Pep demands. So if you've lost the number of games now, I think it's 14 out of the last 27 games in all competitions. That suggests that you've got problems, and the managers are in his rights to say, right, we've just signed 3 players, we're not going to spend time working them into the team and leaving the other fella. Everybody was saying the same thing. The team needs revival, needs freshness, needs new players, needs energy, and they've given it that. Mamouche has given it that. Kusanov is probably a bit raw, for this big stage. Gonzalez looks a bit of a player in the midfield. I bet was position today. I just thought he was a bit isolated, playing slightly leftish with Rico Lewis as the right full back coming in to make up the other midfield player. That he seemed to get, he was left without much help in the defensive duties when De Bruyne was up the pitch, Mamouche was up the pitch, Foden was up the pitch, and Rico Lewis was caught out as well as the 2 wingers. And on that second goal, he was the wrong side of Szoboszlai and didn't seem to spot the danger of Szoboszlai. When he initially made a run, he was offside, but he didn't make contact with the ball. He allowed Salah to come behind him and get it. Then he took up a new position. This is Szoboszlai I'm talking about. So Nico Gonzalez, you could see the quality of his pass and nice and neat and tidy, and that used to work for City. Loads of short passes until they got into the positions where they wanted all the players on the pitch, and then there'd be usually a little ball in behind the defence for someone to get onto, and then a cut back from Bernardo Silva for a goal. And we've seen those type of goals for years, different types of goals with Haaland in recent years, but they hadn't got Haaland there today to give them the variation maybe they needed to find a way through what was outstanding defensive display, particularly in the middle by Liverpool. They got done in the wide positions, but they never were able to capitalise on the crosses.
I'm looking at a lot of that City team today, Brian, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Mateo Kovacic, and you're kind of thinking some of these players, I can't see them being back here next season. There's going to be a huge revamp needed by Pep Guardiola. Do you think he's got the hunger for it, and do you think it could be a couple of seasons before we see City back at the top again?
I would think he has the hunger for it. He's looked kind of very frustrated and almost at the stage of exasperation, I think, lately, not being able to find a methodology or a setup that works for them. And but I don't think he's a quitter. I don't think he'd be satisfied. I think he will see this as being a challenge to go on and make another great team. He knows he's got a bit of work to do. They've had a great time here since he's been here. What, they went 5 in the last 6 or 6 in the last 7? Is it
4 in a row, 6 in the last 7, yeah.
6 in the last 7 titles. Phenomenal success compared to the old man Manchester City. So I would think he'll be. I think he agreed a new contract back before the end of last year. I think he'll go at it. How soon it'll take. And look, you must remember they also have huge resources. They spent the guts of 200 million on a few players in the window, and they'll be able to go again if need be, depending on what happens with the charges and all that. Looks like that's starting to run in their favour a bit. But they have the resources to get players, and they'll also be able to save money on some of those players you named. Probably will not be part of the setup again next year. There may be a bit of high turnover, so that means they'll have some spare money from the saving of wages to invest in new, fresher players, and maybe adapt their game a little bit more to the change in tactical things that are happening in the game, which we see more teams playing, not so much the way Liverpool played today, but our teams playing counter press or counter attack, fast, sucking teams onto them and then hitting them with fast, quick passes into the opposition half, ending up in goals or shots or whatever. Or other teams are pressing high and winning the ball back in the opposition's third. So the game is changing a bit from his possession style game, where he kind of passed teams to death, where they ended up being dizzy with the number of passes, and then they'd lose concentration. City would exploit that with brilliant passes or the pace of the wide players. We wait to see developments, but I think that they're gone for this year in terms of that. I think they'll make the top 4. They might win the cup as well, but obviously went out of the Champions League and they're out of the league big time now, and 20 points behind Liverpool.
Arne Slot came into the league with not, you would say, well, certainly not with the reputation that Pep Guardiola had. He had some, mediocre success with Feyenoord and before that, but to do what he's doing, at the moment, having signed just one player in the summertime, Federico Chiesa, who's barely played, it's essentially the same squad that Jurgen Klopp had last season. It's pretty phenomenal what he's done here.
Yeah, he's a smart coach. There's no doubt about that. I think he's probably a better record than you said, but he.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, demean what he's done. Well, not dismiss, but I'm saying compared to Pep Guardiola when he came here,
and he might
there wasn't
not.
any comparison.
He may not have been the first choice for Liverpool if they had all the choices that they wanted. Some of the choices they wanted may have been gone, but look, he's done a fantastic job. There's no doubt about it. He's changed them tactically, not changed the personnel, but changed them. Biggest one was probably Gravenberch playing as the holding player in midfield, or as a six, a double pivot as he was today with McAllister. But we didn't see all of his skills today. His ability to take the ball out the back four and turn out and start an attack from a position where they're often under pressure at the back in the build-up. He has this ability to take the ball in a stride, or actually let it run by him when he's been marked, and away he goes, and he starts the attack from there. So he's not just a defensive midfield player, he's also the first start of the creation of chances. But I think that's been the biggest thing that he's done. Apart from that, I mean, today is a bit unlike most of the way they played all season. Today wasn't typical of how they played, but in general he's changed the game. It's a little bit more so slower build up at times. Sometimes it's faster build up, but it's not the constant gung ho of the Klopp times, and the incessant pressure on the opposition in the final. Sometimes they drop off, sometimes they go for it and they go for the high press, other times they take it easy. It allows Mo is doing less sprints. Most of his sprints are now in the attack, they're not sprints chasing down and closing defenders. So that's probably helped some of the players to keep themselves right. We discussed during the commentary about the fact that they don't seem to have so many injuries now either, which is interesting. But he's done a fantastic job, no doubt about that. Looks like they're on the way to win the league now.
I was even listening to his press conference before the Villa game last week, and he said, Villa do have a very good record at home, and especially at the time of the evening that we're playing. So it kind of gave you a little bit of an insight into, and look, I know every manager does their analysis into, but it's just he obviously takes into account every little thing. They've got a midweek game against Newcastle United now, and you'd have to say they're in a very good position to go. They drew 3-0 with Newcastle early in the season. That was a raucous St James's Park. I'm sure Anfield will be raucous, they'll be up for it. It's always one of those cliche classic Premier League games, but looking at the way they kind of conserved energy almost in that second half, you have a feeling they're going to be fit and ready for that.
I think there was a lot of energy used up today, Stephen. I saw Szoboszlai at the end of the match out on his feet, lying on the ground, delighted with the achievement, but knew he'd run himself into the ground. I thought McAllister was tired looking. I thought it was a lot of players expanded a huge amount of energy, so I wouldn't put too much, but they might need a little bit. But you look at Harvey Elliott, it wasn't used today. Curtis Jones probably played about 75 minutes. Got Endo on the pitch, made
Jota.
a bit of a difference. Jota wasn't.
You spotted
used
something
today.
actually after the match.
Jota wasn't involved in the warm down, which they had 4 other players doing a fair bit, including Kwanzaa, who played the last few minutes of the match. Chiesa was out there, Nunes was out there, and Harvey Elliott, but Jota wasn't. So I think they've been careful, and you see them changing 2 full backs again today, keeping a bit of energy. But I think Newcastle match, big match for them now again. But after that, they've only got 4 away games. I think that's so. What they got left? 11 left, 7 at home, 4 away. That's a great position to be in, and they've now played. That's a big match out of the way today. That's a difficult away match, and it's still unbeaten away this season. The only game they lost is the home match with Nottingham Forest. So they look like they're going to do it, unless something very, unless they have a bit of a collapse. People were saying that they've not been doing well lately. They're having a bad time. They've just been getting draws with Aston Villa, who are well up in the table. With Everton, Jesus, look who's coming across.
I mentioned in our commentary that your record remains intact. Shay Given alongside us here. Shay, I'm not sure if you're aware, Ederson was hoping to get assists in 3 consecutive matches.
The lads mentioned it down there,
happy to keep that record with Pepe Reina.
I was surprised I was on any list, to be honest. I thought it was going to be some sort of howler list or something.
It wasn't a transfer list.
No, I mean, one of them too in my time, but no, I mean, Ederson didn't have much chance for the goals, I don't think. I mean, Liverpool just They were too good. They were in control the whole way through. It was
without having much of the ball.
No, like the possession stats will be all heavy on City, I would imagine, and stuff like that. But the City didn't really look dangerous. Alisson probably could have left his gloves in the change room. It was that easy afternoon for him, wasn't it? And it's amazing, you know, you see in the screens here in the background, champions 4 in a row floating around, like, but they don't look like champions at the minute. They look like there's something missing, whatever that is. I don't know, but they look miles off it at the minute. And yeah, I mean, the Liverpool look like they're going to win the league now. Clearly, I mean, if City had won today, it might have put a bit of sort of doubt over some people's minds, but I think there's no doubt after today, and I suppose after Arsenal slipping up again yesterday as well.
Thanks a million, Jay.
Right,
Great to see you.
Great to see you.
A couple of Irishmen in Manchester.
Great to see you.
Take care of yourself.
Thanks.
All the best,
Thanks,
Jay.
Shay.
Good luck. That's always nice to get a special guest during a little post-match, Brian, isn't it? And a man, I'd say, who would have enjoyed playing behind Konate and Van Dijk, as we saw today. What an imperious performance
He
from
plays
them two.
behind some good ones.
Yeah.
Kenny Cunningham and Andy O'Brien and Gary Bryan and fellas like that, and a lot of others over the years. Great goalkeeper, smashing fella.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Brian, we better make our way home. Thanks a million.
All right, great stuff, Stephen. Thanks a lot.